The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was called Horizon Prime, and it was the largest structure ever built by living hands. The station was neutral ground. No empire owned it. No species controlled it. For 300 years, it had been the place where enemies came to talk instead of fight. Today, it would host the most important meeting in galactic history. G1 Park stood at the window of her small room and watched the ships arrive. Each one was bigger than the last. The Valari cruisers came first, their silver hulls reflecting the distant starlight. Then came the Kreth warships, dark and heavy, built for destruction. Finally, the Oran vessels appeared, elegant and white, moving through space like Ghost. G1 was 42 years old. She had spent 20 years as a diplomat for Earth. She had ended wars, built alliances, and saved millions of lives with nothing but words. The United Nations had chosen her for this mission because she was the best humanity had to offer. But standing here, watching those massive alien ships, she felt very small. A knock came at her door. She turned and said, "Come in." Do-Hyun Kim entered the room. He was young, only 28, but his mind was sharper than anyone G1 had ever met. He was her translator, though he was much more than that. Do-Hyun could speak 47 alien languages. He could read body language that humans could not even see. He noticed things that others missed. "The delegations are almost ready," Do-Hyun said. "The opening ceremony begins in 1 hour." G1 nodded. "And our security?" "Taiwan is checking the perimeter now. He says the station is clean, but he does not trust the alien security teams." "Taiwan does not trust anyone," G1 said with a small smile. "That is why he is good at his job." The door opened again, and 2 more people walked in. Taiwan Lee was a tall man with broad shoulders and cold eyes. He had been a soldier before he became a bodyguard. He had scars on his hands and a gun on his hip. He did not smile often. Behind him came Yuna Choi. She was the youngest member of the team. Only 25, but she knew more about alien cultures than anyone on Earth. She had studied the Valari, the Kreth, and the Oran for years. She understood how they thought, what they feared, and what they wanted. "We have a problem," Taiwan said. G1 raised an eyebrow. "Already?" "The Kreth brought twice as many soldiers as they promised. The Valari are complaining. The Oran are threatening to leave." "So everything is normal," G1 said. Yuna stepped forward. "There is something else. I have been watching the delegations since they arrived. They hate each other. That is expected. But there is something strange. When they think no one is looking, they exchange glances. Small signals. Like they share a secret." G1 considered this. "You think they are working together?" "I do not know yet. But something feels wrong." G1 looked at her team. These 3 people were all she had. 4 humans on a station filled with thousands of aliens. The empires had armies, fleets, and weapons that could destroy planets. Earth had nothing compared to them. But Earth had something the empires did not understand. Earth had survived. "Stay alert," G1 said. "Trust no one outside this room. We are here to make peace, but we must be ready for war." The opening ceremony took place in the Grand Hall. It was a massive room with a ceiling so high that clouds could form inside it. Thousands of alien delegates filled the seats. The air was thick with tension. G1 walked to the human section. It was small, placed in the corner, almost hidden. The message was clear. Humanity was not important here. They were guests, nothing more. High Commander Graves of the Valari Empire spoke first. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes that never blinked. His voice was cold and smooth, like ice sliding over stone. "We gather here to end centuries of conflict," Graves said. "The Valari Empire seeks peace. We seek prosperity." We seek a future where all species can thrive. Ji-won watched him carefully. His words were perfect, but his eyes were empty. He did not believe what he was saying. Next came Warlord Stone of the Kreth Dominion. He was the opposite of Graves. He was massive, with thick arms and a face covered in scars. His voice was loud and rough. "The Kreth are tired of war," Stone said. "We have lost many warriors. We have buried many sons. We want peace, but we will not accept weakness. Any agreement must respect our strength." Finally, Counselor Blake of the Oran Collective stood. She was beautiful in an alien way, with pale blue skin and silver hair. Her voice was soft, almost musical. "The Oran have always believed in harmony," Blake said. "We hope these talks will bring balance to the galaxy. We hope all species will find their place." Ji-won noticed how Blake looked at the human section when she said those words. There was something in her eyes, something that looked like pity. Or perhaps it was something darker. When the ceremony ended, the real talks began. Ji-won sat at a table with the 3 Empire leaders. Do-hyun stood behind her, translating every word. Taiwan waited by the door, watching everything. Yuna observed from the gallery above. The first day was about territory. The empires argued over planets, moons, and asteroid fields. They drew lines on star maps and shouted at each other. Ji-won said little. She listened. She learned. She noticed that whenever Earth was mentioned, the 3 leaders exchanged quick looks. They changed the subject. They moved on. On the second day, they discussed trade routes. Again, the empires fought over every detail. Again, Earth was ignored. Ji-won did not complain. She did not demand attention. She waited. On the third night, Do-hyun came to her room with a datapad in his hands. His face was pale. "I intercepted a transmission," he said. "It was encrypted, but it broke the code." Ji-won took the datapad and read the message. Her blood went cold. The message was between the 3 empires. It outlined a secret agreement. Once the peace talks ended, they would divide the galaxy among themselves. Every planet, every system, every resource would belong to one of the 3 powers, and Earth would be split between them. Humanity would be enslaved. Those who resisted would be killed. The peace talks were not about peace. They were about deciding how to destroy humanity. Ji-won put down the datapad. Her hands were steady, but her heart was racing. "Does anyone else know about this?" she asked. "No," Do-hyun said. "Just us." Ji-won looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, her people. 7 billion souls who had no idea they were about to die. She had come here to make peace. But peace was never an option. The game had been rigged from the start. Now she had to find a way to win a game that was designed for her to lose. "Say nothing to anyone," Ji-won told Do-hyun. "Not yet. We need a plan." She did not know what that plan would be. But she knew one thing for certain. Humanity would not go quietly into the darkness. Ji-won did not sleep that night. She sat in her room and read the intercepted message again and again. Each time, she hoped she had made a mistake. Each time, the words remained the same. Earth would be divided. Humanity would be enslaved. Children would grow up in chains. Old people would die in camps. Everything that humans had built over thousands of years would be erased, and the 3 empires would share the spoils like wolves sharing a deer. At dawn, she called her team to her room. Taiwan, Do-hyun, and Yuna gathered around the small table. Their faces were tired but alert. "What I am about to tell you cannot leave this room," Ji-won said. "If the empires learn that we know, they will kill us immediately." She showed them the message. She watched their faces change as they read it. Taiwan's jaw tightened. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. Do-hyun's hands began to shake. "This cannot be real," Yuna whispered. "It is real," Jiwan said. "The peace talks are a show. The empires have already agreed on everything. They are just pretending to fight so no one suspects the truth." Taiwan stood up and walked to the window. His hand rested on his gun. "Then we fight. We kill the leaders and send a message to Earth. Our fleet can prepare for war. Our fleet would last maybe 3 days," Do-Yoon said quietly. "The empires have thousands of ships. We have hundreds. The math is simple. We cannot win a war, so we just accept death?" Taiwan turned around, anger burning in his eyes. "We sit here and wait for them to put chains on our children?" "No," Jiwan said. "We find another way." The room went silent. Everyone looked at her. "The empires think we are weak," Jiwan continued. "They think we are young and stupid. They invited us to these talks because they wanted to study us. They wanted to learn our weaknesses before the invasion. Then they have already won," Yuna said. "No, they have made a mistake." Jiwan leaned forward. "They underestimated us. They see our small ships and our young civilization. They do not see what we really are. And what are we?" Taiwan asked. "Survivors." Jiwan's voice was firm. "Humanity has faced extinction before. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. We almost destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons, but we pulled back from the edge. We are still here. That is not luck. That is something deeper." She stood up and looked at each member of her team. The empires have never faced true extinction. They grew up in safety. They conquered weaker species. They have never been the hunted. They do not understand what a cornered animal can do. Dawn nodded slowly. "So, what is the plan?" Jiwan walked to the window. Outside, the stars glittered like diamonds on black cloth. "We cannot win with weapons. But there are other ways to fight. The empires are allies now, but they hate each other. That hatred is old and deep. If we can turn them against each other, they will forget about us. And how do we do that?" Yuna asked. "By playing their game better than they do. By making them trust us. By learning their secrets. And when the time is right, by destroying everything they have built." The next few days were the most difficult of Jiwan's life. She sat in meetings and smiled at the creatures who planned to enslave her people. She laughed at their jokes. She agreed with their proposals. She made them believe she was harmless. Meanwhile, her team worked in secret. Do-Yoon spent every night intercepting communications. He broke through firewalls and encryption systems that were supposed to be unbreakable. He learned things the empires never wanted anyone to know. The Valari Empire was not as united as it seemed. Many of their colonies were unhappy. They paid heavy taxes but received nothing in return. There had been protests, even small rebellions. The empire had crushed them with violence, but the anger remained. The Kreth Dominion was ruled by fear. Warlord Stone had killed his own brother to take power. Many Kreth warriors wanted revenge, but were too scared to act. They waited for a sign, a moment of weakness. The Aran Collective appeared peaceful, but their history was dark. They had destroyed entire species to protect their trade routes. They had erased those crimes from their records, but the truth still existed in hidden files. Yun gathered cultural intelligence. She talked to servants, guards, and minor officials. She asked innocent questions and received important answers. She learned that many aliens did not trust their leaders. They feared the war that was coming. They wanted peace, real peace, not the lie their empires were selling. Taiwan mapped the station. He found hidden passages, security weaknesses, and escape routes. He made friends with the station's maintenance workers, people who were ignored by the powerful, but who knew every secret of Horizon Prime. Each night, the team met in Jiwan's room to share what they had learned. Each night, the picture became clearer. The empires were not as strong as they appeared. They were built on lies, fear, and violence. Their power was real, but it was also fragile. One crack could bring everything down. On the fourth day, High Commander Graves invited G1 to a private dinner. She accepted, knowing it was a trap. They sat in a beautiful room with windows that showed the galaxy spinning slowly past. Graves poured wine and smiled his cold smile. "You are different from other humans," Graves said. "Most of your species talk too much. They show their emotions. They cannot hide what they are thinking. But you are quiet, controlled. I find that interesting." "I am just a diplomat," G1 said. "I listen more than I talk." "Yes, you listen very carefully." Graves leaned forward. "Tell me, Ambassador Park, what do you think of these peace talks?" G1 sipped her wine. It tasted like honey and fire. "I think everyone here wants something," she said. "The question is whether they can get it without destroying everything else." Graves laughed. It was a strange sound, like metal scraping against stone. "You are clever. I like that. It is almost a shame." "A shame?" Graves waved his hand. "Nothing. Just thinking aloud. Tell me about Earth. I have never visited. What is it like?" G1 thought of blue oceans and green forests. She thought of cities filled with light and villages filled with laughter. She thought of children playing in parks and old couples walking hand in hand. "It is home," she said simply. Graves nodded. "Home, a powerful word. Species will do anything to protect their home. They will fight. They will die. They will even become monsters." He looked at her with those unblinking eyes. "What would you do to protect your home, Ambassador Park?" G1 met his gaze. She did not look away. "Anything," she said. "I would do anything." Graves smiled again. This time, there was something different in his expression. Something that might have been respect. "I believe you," he said. "That is why I will be watching you very closely." That night, G1 lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Graves suspected something. He did not know what, but he sensed danger. The clock was ticking down. She had to act soon, or they would all die. But first, she needed to gather more evidence. She needed proof that would convince not just the empires, but the billions of ordinary aliens who lived under them. Proof that their leaders had lied. Proof that the peace was faked on. And then she needed a way to share that proof with the entire galaxy. It seemed impossible. But G1 had learned long ago that impossible was just another word for not yet done. She closed her eyes and began to plan. The fifth day of the peace talks began like any other. The leaders gathered in the great hall. The translators stood behind their masters. The guards watched every movement. The air was thick with lies and false smiles, but G1 could feel something different. The tension had grown. The empires were becoming impatient. They wanted to finish the show and begin the real work of conquering Earth. Warlord Stone was the first to break the fragile calm. He stood up in the middle of a discussion about mining rights. His massive body blocked the light from the windows. His voice echoed off the walls like thunder. "Why do we waste time with these small matters?" Stone demanded. "We argue about rocks and dust, while the future of the galaxy hangs in the balance." High Commander Graves raised one thin hand. "Patience, Warlord. All things in their proper time. I am tired of patience." Stone slammed his fist on the table. The sound made everyone jump. "And I am tired of pretending that all species at this table are equal." He turned to look at G1. His eyes were filled with contempt, especially the humans. The room went silent. Every alien turned to watch. G1 felt their stares like heat on her skin. "The humans are children," Stone continued. "They have existed for the blink of an eye. They have never conquered a world. They have never built an empire. They sit here pretending to be our equals, but they are nothing. They are livestock waiting for the slaughter. Laughter rippled through the room. The Valari delegates smiled their cold smiles. The Orin covered their mouths politely. Even some of the minor species laughed, eager to please the powerful. Do-Hyun translated every word into Ji-won's earpiece. His voice was tight with anger. Behind her, she felt Taiwan step forward, ready to fight. Ji-won raised her hand slightly. Taiwan stopped. She looked at Warlord Stone. She looked at his scars and his muscles and his cruel eyes. Then she did something that no one expected. She smiled. It was a small smile, calm and quiet. But something about it made the laughter die. Something about it made the aliens shift in their seats. Something about it made High Commander Graves narrow his eyes. "The Warlord is correct," Ji-won said. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the silent room. Humanity is young. We have not conquered worlds. We have not built empires across the stars. She stood up slowly. She was smaller than everyone in the room. She had no weapons, no army, no fleet. She was alone, and yet somehow she commanded attention. "The great empires here have asked each delegation to share their greatest victory," Ji-won said. "I have listened to your stories. The Valari conquered the 5 systems of Orion. The Kreth destroyed the Flame Lords and took their worlds. The Arn built trade routes that span 100 star systems." She paused and looked at each leader in turn. "These are impressive victories. They show power, strength, and military skill. But I wonder, have any of you ever fought an enemy you could not defeat?" Silence answered her. "The humans have," Ji-won continued. "Many times. Our greatest enemy was ourselves." She walked around the table, moving slowly, letting her words sink in. "For thousands of years, humans fought humans. We created weapons that could destroy cities in a single flash. We invented poisons that could kill millions. We built machines of war that could turn our beautiful planet into ash." High Commander Graves leaned forward. For the first time, he looked truly interested. 200 years ago, Ji-won said, we stood at the edge of complete destruction. We had thousands of nuclear weapons pointed at each other. One wrong move, one mistake, one moment of madness, and every human would have died. Our planet would have become a dead rock floating in space. She stopped and faced the room. But we did not press the button. We stepped back. We chose to live. Warlord Stone snorted. "That is not a victory. That is weakness. You were afraid to fight, no." Ji-won's voice became harder. "We were afraid of what we would become if we did fight. We looked into the darkness inside ourselves, and we chose to turn away from it. That took more courage than any conquest." She walked back to her seat but did not sit down. "The empires here see humanity as weak because we are small, because we have not conquered, because we prefer to talk instead of fight. But let me tell you something about humans." Her eyes moved across the room, touching every face. "We have survived ice ages that covered our world in cold. We have survived plagues that killed half our population. We have survived wars, famines, disasters, and our own worst instincts. Every time we faced extinction, we found a way to continue." She placed her hands on the table and leaned forward. "We are not conquerors. We are survivors. And survivors are far more dangerous than conquerors. Conquerors know how to take. Survivors know how to endure. Conquerors give up when they cannot win. Survivors never give up, ever." The room was completely still. No one moved. No one spoke. Ji-won let the silence stretch for a long moment. Then she sat down calmly, as if she had been discussing the weather. "Please continue with the peace talks," she said. "I am sure we have much more to discuss." After the session ended, the aliens left the room quickly. They whispered to each other in worried voices. Something had changed. The humans were no longer a joke. They were something else. Something they did not understand. High Commander Graves stayed behind. He walked to Ji-won's table and stood looking down at her. "That was an interesting speech, Ambassador," he said. "I simply told the truth," Ji-won replied. "The truth is a dangerous weapon. More dangerous than any bomb." Graves tilted his head. "I have studied many species. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I thought I understood humans. I was wrong. Most aliens make that mistake. Perhaps." Graves smiled his cold smile. "But I learned from my mistakes. I will not underestimate you again." He turned and walked away. At the door, he paused and looked back. "Sleep well, Ambassador Park. Tomorrow will be an interesting day." That night, Ji-won met with her team one final time. They had gathered all the evidence they needed. They had mapped every escape route. They had prepared for what came next. "Tomorrow, we leave," Ji-won said. "We cannot wait any longer. Graves suspects us. Stone wants us dead. If we stay, they will find a reason to arrest us or kill us. How do we leave without being stopped?" Yuna asked. Taiwan found a maintenance shuttle in the lower levels. It is old and slow, but it can reach the communications array before anyone notices we are gone. "The communications array?" Do-Hin's eyes widened. "You want to broadcast the evidence? Not just to this station, to every planet in every empire. Every citizen, every soldier, every worker will learn the truth about what their leaders planned." Taiwan grinned. It was the first time Jaewon had seen him smile. "They will think we ran away in fear," he said. "But we will be attacking them in a way they never expected." "Exactly." Ji-won looked at her team. "Are you ready?" They nodded. "Then tomorrow, we change the galaxy." She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. Her people waited. They did not know the danger they faced. They did not know that their future depended on 4 humans and a desperate plan. But Ji-won knew, and she would not fail them. Tomorrow, she would leave the field, and the empires would learn what that really meant. The morning came cold and silent. The stars outside Horizon Prime glittered like frozen tears. Inside the station, the delegates prepared for another day of empty talk. But the human quarters were dark. The doors were locked. No sound came from within. High Commander Graves was the first to notice. He sent a guard to check on Ambassador Park. The guard came back with strange news. "The humans are gone, Commander. Their rooms are empty. Their belongings are still there, but the humans have vanished." Graves felt something cold crawl up his spine. He had spent centuries studying enemy tactics. He knew when something was wrong. "Find them," he ordered. "Search every level of this station. Now." The search began immediately. Soldiers moved through the corridors. Scanners swept every room. Security cameras were checked, and Double Dash checked. Nothing. The 4 humans had disappeared. Like smoke in the wind, Warlord Stone stormed into the council chamber with rage burning in his eyes. His heavy boots shook the floor with every step. "Where are they?" he roared. "Where are the humans?" Councilor Blake rose from her seat with worry on her face. "They cannot have left the station. No ships have departed since last night. The docking records show nothing. Then they are hiding. They are planning something." Stone turned to Graves. "This is your fault. You said they were harmless. You said they were too stupid to cause trouble." "I said no such thing," Graves replied calmly, though his mind was racing. "I said we should watch them. Clearly, we did not watch them closely enough." "Enough arguing," Blake said. "We must find them before they do whatever they are planning to do." But even as she spoke, she felt a growing fear. The human ambassador had looked at her with those calm eyes. She had spoken words that still echoed in Blake's memory. Survivors are far more dangerous than conquerors. What had she meant by that? Deep in the lower levels of Horizon Prime, Ji-won and her team moved through the shadows. Taiwan led the way, his gun ready. Do-hyun carried a datapad filled with evidence. Yuna watched their backs. They had left their quarters through a maintenance shaft that Taiwan had found days ago. The shaft connected to old tunnels that the station's builders had forgotten. No one had walked these paths in decades. How much farther? Ji-won whispered. 2 more levels, Taiwan replied. The communications array is at the top of the central tower. We can reach it through the ventilation system. And the shuttle? Waiting in Bay 7. If everything goes well, we broadcast the message and then escape before they can catch us. Ji-won nodded. Everything depended on the next hour. If they succeeded, the galaxy would change forever. If they failed, humanity would die in chains. They climbed through dark passages and crawled through dusty vents. The air was stale and cold. Strange sounds echoed from the depths of the station. Alien machines hummed and clicked in the darkness. Finally, they reached the communications array. It was a massive room filled with screens and controls. Thousands of cables ran up to the ceiling and out into space, connecting Horizon Prime to every corner of the galaxy. Do-hyun rushed to the main console. His fingers flew across the keys. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. I am breaking through their security, he said. Give me 2 minutes. Ji-won watched the door while Taiwan covered the ventilation shaft they had used to enter. Yuna helped Do-hyun with the technical work. 1 minute passed. Then another. I am in, Do-hyun said. The broadcast system is ready. I can send our message to every planet in every empire. Billions of beings will see it. Ji-won stepped forward. She took a deep breath and looked into the camera that Yuna had activated. Begin recording, she said. The red light blinked on. Ji-won began to speak. My name is Ji-won Park. I am the human ambassador to the Galactic Peace Talks. I am speaking to every citizen of the Valari Empire, the Kreth Dominion, and the Oran Collective. She paused to let her words settle. Your leaders have lied to you. These peace talks are not about peace. They are about conquest. The 3 empires have made a secret agreement to divide the galaxy among themselves. Every planet, every moon, every resource will belong to the powerful. The weak will be enslaved or destroyed. Do-hyun displayed the evidence on the screen beside her. Documents, recordings, maps, showing how the galaxy would be carved up. Recordings of the 3 leaders planning the destruction of Earth. I did not come here to fight, Ji-won continued. I came here to make peace. But I learned that peace was never possible. The game was rigged from the start. So I chose to leave the field. She looked directly into the camera, her eyes burning with intensity. But leaving the field does not mean running away. It means refusing to play a game that cannot be won. It means changing the rules. It means showing the truth to those who deserve to know it. Behind her, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed. They had been discovered. Hurry, Taiwan said. They are coming. Ji-won kept speaking. Faster now, but still clear. The empires want you to believe that they are strong and you are weak. They want you to stay silent and obey. But you are not weak. You are billions of beings with the power to change everything. The truth is now in your hands. What you do with it is your choice. She stepped back from the camera. Send it, she told Do-hyun. Send it to everyone. Do-hyun pressed the final key. The message shot out into space, traveling at the speed of light to every planet in the galaxy. In seconds, billions of screens lit up with Ji-won's face. Billions of beings heard her words. The door to the communications room exploded inward. Soldiers poured through, weapons raised. But they were too late. "It is done," Ji-won said calmly as the soldiers surrounded them. "Everyone knows the truth now." High Commander Graves pushed through the crowd of soldiers. His face was pale with shock and rage. "What have you done?" he demanded. "I showed them who you really are." Ji-won met his gaze without fear. "Your own people will judge you now." Warlord Stone arrived next, breathing heavily. "Kill them. Kill them all." "Wait." Counselor Blake appeared in the doorway, her face troubled. "If we kill them now, after everyone has seen that message, we will prove that everything they said was true." Stone hesitated. His hand trembled on his weapon. Across the galaxy, chaos was already spreading. On a Valari colony world, workers stopped their machines and gathered in the streets. On a Kreth moon, soldiers questioned their officers. On an Oran trading station, merchants closed their shops and watched the screens in disbelief. The message played again and again. The evidence was clear. The leaders had lied. The peace talks were fake. The empires had planned conquest and slavery. In the communications room on Horizon Prime, Ji-won stood surrounded by enemies. She had no weapons, no army, no escape. But she smiled. "You thought we were weak," she said to the three leaders. "You thought we would accept our fate quietly. But you do not understand humans. We never accept defeat. We never stop fighting. And when we cannot fight with weapons, we fight with truth." Graves stared at her for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was a strange sound, hollow and cold. "You have destroyed everything," he said. "The empires will fall into chaos. Millions will die in the wars that follow. And you think this is a victory?" "I think it is a beginning," Ji-won replied. "The old order was built on lies. Now the galaxy has a chance to build something better. Something honest. Something free." She looked at Yuna, Do-yoon, and Taiwan. They stood together, surrounded but unbroken. "Whatever happens next," Ji-won said, "we change the game. And that is all that matters." Outside the station, the first Valari warship began to drift away from the fleet. Its crew had mutinied against their commander. They did not want to serve liars anymore. One ship became 10. 10 became 100. The empires were crumbling. And it had all started because one human refused to accept defeat, because one human left the field. 3 months had passed since the broadcast that shook the galaxy. Ji-won stood at a window on Earth, watching the sun set over the ocean. The sky was painted in colors of orange and gold. Birds flew across the horizon. The world was at peace. But the galaxy was not. The 3 empires had collapsed like towers built on sand. When the truth reached the common people, they rose up against their masters. On Valari Prime, the capital city burned for a week before the rebels took control. In the Kreth Dominion, soldiers killed their own warlords and swore never to follow tyrants again. The Oran Collective broke into a dozen smaller nations, each one rejecting the lies of the past. The war that followed was brutal but short. Without their leaders, the Empire fleets had no direction. They fought each other for a few weeks, then simply stopped. The soldiers were tired. They had seen the evidence. They knew they had been used. High Commander Graves disappeared during the chaos. Some said he fled to a hidden base on the edge of the galaxy. Others said his own officers killed him. No one knew for certain, and few cared. Warlord Stone died fighting. When the Kreth soldiers turned against him, he refused to surrender. He took 30 rebels with him before they finally brought him down. Even his enemies respected his courage, though they hated everything else about him. Counselor Blake survived. She surrendered to the new Oran government and agreed to testify against the other Empire leaders. She spent her remaining years in a comfortable prison, writing her memoirs and wondering how everything had gone so wrong. And Ji-won Park came home. The four humans had escaped from Horizon Prime in the chaos that followed the broadcast. Taiwan flew the old maintenance shuttle through the fighting fleets while Doing jammed their tracking systems. Yuna kept everyone calm with her steady voice. Jiwan sat in silence, watching the stars pass by. They reached Earth 3 weeks later. The whole world was watching when their tiny shuttle landed. Billions of humans had seen the broadcast. They knew what Jiwan had done. They knew she had saved them all. But Jiwan did not want to be a hero. She did not want statues or medals or songs written about her. She wanted only one thing: to rest. She bought a small house by the sea and lived there alone. She woke up each morning and walked on the beach. She read books and tended a small garden. She watched the waves and thought about nothing at all. Sometimes, old friends came to visit. Dohyun stopped by every few months to share the latest news from the galaxy. He had become the head of Earth's intelligence service, building networks that reached every corner of the known worlds. The new Galactic Council met for the first time yesterday. Dohyun told her during one visit. Earth is a permanent seat. We are one of the 5 founding members. Jiwan smiled. That is good. They want to name the council chamber after you. The Park Hall of Peace. Tell them no. Dohyun laughed. I already did. They were disappointed. Yuna visited often as well. She had started the first Interstellar Cultural Institute, bringing together artists and scholars from hundreds of species. For the first time in history, aliens came to Earth not as conquerors, but as friends. You should see the students, Yuna said. We have young Valari learning to paint. We have Kreth children playing music. Last week, an orange chef taught a cooking class. The humans loved it. And do they get along? Jiwan asked. Mostly. There are arguments sometimes. Old hatreds die slowly. But every day, they understand each other a little better. Every day, the walls come down a little more. Taiwan visited least often. He had become the commander of the Interstellar Security Force, protecting the new peace with ships and soldiers. He traveled constantly, putting out fires and stopping conflicts before they could grow. It is hard work, he admitted during a rare visit. There are still people who want to rebuild the empires. There are still warlords and tyrants who dream of power. But we stop them. Every time. Are you happy? Jiwan asked. Taewon thought about the question for a long moment. I am useful, he said finally. I protect people instead of hurting them. That is enough for me. Years passed. The galaxy slowly healed. New alliances formed between species that had once been enemies. Trade routes opened that brought wealth to worlds that had known only poverty. Children grew up in peace, never knowing the terror of Empire. And throughout the galaxy, one story was told again and again. The story of the human who defeated 3 empires without firing a single shot. The story of the ambassador who left the field and changed the game. Valari historian came to interview Jiwan when she was 70 years old. He was young and eager, with bright eyes and 1,000 questions. How did you do it? He asked. How did you know the broadcast would work? How did you know the empires would fall? Jiwan sat in her garden, watching butterflies dance among the flowers. I did not know, she said. I hoped. I believed. But I did not know. Were you not afraid? I was terrified. Every moment, I was terrified. But fear is not a reason to give up. Fear is a reminder that something important is at stake. The historian wrote furiously in his notebook. What advice would you give to young diplomats? To anyone who wants to change the world? Jiwan was quiet for a long time. The sun was setting again, painting the sky in familiar colors. Listen more than you speak, she said at last. Understand your enemies before you fight them. Look for the weakness in every strength and the strength in every weakness. And never, never accept defeat. Even when you cannot see a way forward, keep looking. The path is always there. You just have to find it. The historian thanked her and left. His book, when it was published, became the most widely read work in galactic history. It was translated into every language. It was taught in schools on 1,000 worlds, but the most famous part was the ending. The historian had asked Ji-won one final question as he was leaving. What do you want to be remembered for? Ji-won had smiled, a warm and peaceful smile. I do not want to be remembered at all, she said. I want people to forget about me. I want them to look at the galaxy we built and think, we did this. Not one person, not a hero, all of us, together. That is the only monument I want. When Ji-won Park died at the age of 92, she was buried in a small cemetery by the sea. Her grave had no title, no list of achievements, no mention of the empires she had toppled. It had only her name and 2 words beneath it. She survived, but though she asked to be forgotten, the galaxy remembered her anyway. They remembered her calm eyes and her quiet voice. They remembered the woman who walked into a room full of enemies and changed history with nothing but the truth. And in the archives of the new Galactic Council, carved into the wall of every meeting room, a single phrase appeared in every known language. Never underestimate a human, because humans were strange creatures. They were small and soft. They lived short lives on a tiny planet at the edge of nowhere. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no special powers, but they had something else. Something that could not be measured or explained. A fire that burned inside them. A refusal to accept the impossible. A belief that tomorrow could be better than today. Thought the aliens had a name for this quality. They called it the human paradox. The weaker humans seemed, the more dangerous they became. The more certain their defeat, the more likely their victory. It made no sense. It followed no logic. But it was true, and as long as humans existed, the galaxy would never be the same. The sun set over the ocean. The stars came out, one by one. Somewhere out there, on 1,000 different worlds, beings of every species looked up at the same sky. And they remembered. They remembered that once, a single human changed everything. And they knew that someday, somehow, a human would do it again.